All right, we are live. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the stream. And so today we are going to try and finish up the ability descriptions for the rest of the remaining classes that we did not get to yesterday. So here's where we left off. I did a little bit of adjustments with like the pixel positions and sizes. Kind of learned like what these variables actually represented because they were a little strange, and then we were pretty much good after that point. So luckily that is all squared away, and so we're now back to working on descriptions. Now it's not actually going to work right now because I proposed a new thing I want to try. So if we go in here under wizard, the meteor ability. Oh, so basically, the descriptions now, if they are too long, they squeeze down to fit within the panel, which is kind of what I intended, like, honestly. So yeah, but if we look here, you'll notice instead of using our little, like, colon syntax, I'm actually using multiplication here. So I've decided I'm going to write a little parser to do math if we supply the multiplication symbol inside the ability item descriptions. So how do we implement that? Well, it's not too difficult from doing like a colon, in that instead of just looking in this this if statement for a colon, we can now actually change this out for another type of character, right? So I propose that we instead use a switch statement here, and then depending on what the character now is, we then go ahead and try to do multiplication on it and display that instead of displaying the, you know, actual description of whatever variable it's supposed to represent, right? So I'm gonna add some curly braces here, bring this out a little bit more. And then let's go ahead and add a switch statement here. So by default, most of the time we're expecting that if there's a special like variable name, it will be indicated with this special tag followed by a colon followed by the variable name. However, if we don't specify a colon and now we say instead specify the multiplication symbol, I now want to take both values. Instead of treating the first one as like a key and the second one as the value, now I want to just multiply the two together, and then we just have a multiplication, because that's inherently pretty useful when it comes to figuring out this like dynamic text. Because what essentially we figured out was that this firing damage frequency and this firing lifetime variable, which are two variables required in order to make the meteor spell work, this can change, like, because of enchantments existing in the game, we have the ability to change what the firing lifetime is. And naturally, if the firing lifetime is increased, that will increase the damage multiplier, and the damage frequency will determine how often things get hit. So on top of firing lifetime times firing damage multiplier, there's also the damage frequency. Now, I believe we don't ever change the damage frequency, which is fine, but so we didn't actually bother to add in like triple multiplication or something, but that would be like the next step, right? Hi there, Kraton. Welcome to the stream. Good to see you. So yes, that is what we're going to accomplish here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, in the switch statement, we need to first indicate what we're finding, like the separator, or excuse me, so this right here says if data has property variable name. We have the variable name. What we don't have is what the parsing token is. So essentially what we have to do is we have to find between like either a colon or a multiplication symbol which one it represents. So maybe we should have an enum that represents which of the two symbols we found. So symbol found indicator, let's call this the symbol indicator. I think that's a good name for this system. So essentially there are two possible options. Maybe three possible options. One is not found because we didn't find anything special. In this case, we don't do anything. The other two indicators can be multiplication and key value pair, which is just represented by a colon. So maybe I should just write colon here. But I kind of want to represent what the functionality is supposed to represent, not just what the symbols are. Maybe on the side as a comment, we can add in like what symbol represents what function. Yeah. Yeah. Catching a live stream. Hello, welcome. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to figure out what the symbol indicator is. So we can first try to find a colon somewhere. And if we don't find a colon, then we'll try to find a multiplication symbol. And then if we don't find either, then the symbol indicator should be not found. So let's make a new symbol indicator variable. We'll call it the indicator, and then we'll say if variable find is not equal to standard string endpause, we'll go ahead and set indicator to be equal to key value pair. Then we'll do an else if, try to then find a multiplication symbol, same system, and if we find one, we're going to do multiplication. Finally, if neither are found, the default will be not found. So I guess we'll just set it to not found by default, and it will change if it can find one or the other. Silly question, don't think I've seen the syntax behind find and parse before. Yes, this is a lambda function. These are the captures for the lambda. This is the argument. This is the return type. Sometimes these are optional, so you might not see it in this much detail. But in this case, I'm pretty verbose about these things. Like, for example, you can just specify to capture this object instead, and it would capture all variables. But sometimes I like to be extra specific with I'm only interested in these variables. Same with the return type. Usually it's auto-deduced, but in this case I wanted to make it explicit. Are you still using strings for inventory items, like adding them? Why not use enums for that? The reason is because in the game's item database, the items are represented as just strings. So I'd rather just bring them in instead of trying to link them. Like, the only way I would be able to link them would be, well, there is reflection now, which might be particularly useful for this scenario, but my only other option is to either keep the enums in game in the same order as what's stored in the item database, or specifically specify that, like, the enum item represents some kind of index, and I feel, or like maybe an item ID or something, but I feel like this is a system that isn't really required, when instead we can just use the name directly and stored in plain text. It also makes it more human readable. Like, why have two locations for an item instead of one? And the whole reason to have it stored in a text file is so that I can easily change it. Versus if I have to change it in code, I can't give this to my game designer, who maybe he wants to modify what the name of an item is, or maybe he wants to change like how an item works, maybe the cooldown or the sell price. If it's in code, then he has to learn how to, he has to install Visual Studio or similar IDE. He has to learn how to program. He has to recompile the project. It's too much work to give to other game designers to have them play around and toy with values. So items and config files as strings just makes things a lot easier. Yeah. Yeah, glad I could clear that up, Kraten. It's just, I tend to use a lot of strange syntax sometimes, whether self-imposed or just because I just code that way. Yes, because I would like to have that flexibility. Plus, it's more sane for me. I can just modify it and then go in game, and the changes are already reflected. That has some beauty to it, with some upfront costs and a bit more heavy programming on the game engine side. Of course, there's always a cost, there's always an upside and downside to everything. You have to weigh the costs and decide what is the best fit for your video game. So now that we have an indicator, we're gonna try to look for these two cases and then do something with them. So not only do we have to know about the cases, but we also have to capture what the actual like values between the two separators are. So now we have to take care of the separator functionality. So basically what I made before was kind of like a tokenizer, where basically we separated by colon, like we separated by key and value. So potentially, if we wanted to reuse the system between two of these, we might just make a lambda that just allows us to tokenize. So maybe something like tokenize, and we would just specify the variable name. So const standard string ref variable name. I had in my clipboard. It will output a new string of vector containing tokenized values. And I know we only have 2 values, but maybe we'll make it flexible enough to expand as much as we want. No plush today, yeah. Sorry. There's nobody there. It's a mature mentality for a developer. There are trade-offs involved. And I think that's the important part, right? It's not necessarily about, oh, one design choice is better than another. It's about, I am aware, or I can analyze each design decision and say whether or not it's a good fit for the project or meets the requirements I'm interested in. And then weighing the benefits and downsides to each one and deciding what am I going to take. Some accrue tech debt, some accrue more complicated code bases, some might include more manual work, right? There's a lot of things you have to factor in when deciding these things. And I think that's the most interesting part to solve when it comes to designing systems, is you have to weigh all these options as you're making things. So now we're gonna try to replicate or follow kind of what we did before, where we grab a substring over and over, but we're gonna make it actually be for as many tokens as we need. We're also gonna need a separator. So I guess I'm gonna go ahead and write here a const char separator character, and we're gonna do that as well. So let's get a vector in here, tokens, and then let's start a while loop. So we'll have a while loop where we have a marker, so size t marker, that initializes as 0, and while marker plus plus is less than variable name length, we're gonna go ahead and try and look for the separator character. So if variable name marker, we'll just say @ so that it can error out if it needs to, because we don't want to go outside our bounds. That would be dangerous. If variable name @ marker is equal to the separator character, we're gonna go ahead and then grab everything from the last separator marker to the current marker. So this is going to be last token index. So then we will say variable name dot substring from last token index to last token index, or marker minus last token index, because this is supposed to be the amount of characters to take, -1 because we don't want to include the token character itself. This is going to be stored or appended to tokens. So tokens and place back into there. We'll do this over and over until marker hits the variable name's length. I am a senior developer, can say you have a strong mental going for you on this, so I'm a bit baffled. Amazing. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It's actually funny, a few days ago, I had a discussion with some of my viewers about whether or not, like, where I would sit on the ladder. And I'm like, I'm probably way more than a junior developer, definitely like around like mid-level. And maybe in some aspects can qualify for a senior level route, or senior level route, but at the same time there's a lot of aspects that are on the more professional side that I lack experience in when it comes to a senior dev. So I think I'm like definitely mid-level, like confidently mid-level, maybe some qualities of a senior dev. It's just kind of an interesting conversation we were having the other day. Because definitely, like, the programming is there, and a lot of the decision or design decisions are there, but maybe a lot of the, like, project management, teamwork, maybe, like, using, what do you call them, like, doing, like, continuous integration, getting, like, anything bigger picture that's managed more by, like, larger corporations, that kind of stuff is probably the places where I'm lacking. Hi there, Kyle. Welcome to the stream. And I also lack a lot of the terminology. So for those that come from a very strict, like, computer sci, or software developer, like, degree and learning environment, there are a lot of terms that they use. They're like, oh, there's this programming pattern, this design pattern, this kind of architecture or design, this kind of workflow, right? There's all these names for different things that I definitely do not have any clue about. I've learned a lot from folks telling me things and I'm like, oh, what is that? And then I go look. There was something about, like, domain-driven whatever the other day, and I was like, oh, that's fascinating. I'm doing well, thank you. It's a Tuesday, so we're making it slowly but surely. Getting through the week, right? Okay, so, in place tokens, while loop should eventually end, and unless this variable is, like, infinitely long. And once we're done, we should be returning our tokens. That's literally all we have to do. Now, is it an error if we don't find tokens? I guess that's something we should catch. Let's error out if we find no tokens, because the expectation is that if we got here, we want a string that has tokens in it. If we haven't tokenized, like, if we find one of these, we're expected to tokenize it into multiple characters. So if it doesn't happen proper, we've done something wrong. So let's just say, if tokens.size is equal to 0, then we're going to error out and just say warning, no tokens were parsed for variable name with a separator character. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think we can't print out a char, like... Actually, no, I think with this operator, a char will print out correctly. There's a certain type that if you pass it through an O stream, I think it, like, prints something else. I think it's like if you try to print a... I think if you try to print, like, an int, obviously it's going to print as a number, right? So maybe... No, there's something else. A signed char, maybe? I don't know what I'm thinking of. But anyways, I think I'm overcomplicating this. I'm pretty sure this character will just print out as is. I'm also going to add little apostrophes here. And that should be okay. So our program should crash if we hit this. And let's see. Hello everyone. Glad to see new for me tech channel. We're teaching code. Yes, very a very broken sense. Yes, domain-driven design. That's what somebody came into chat asking me about the other day. You're also operating on that right now. That's cool. For the most part, I'm a self-made programmer, also a game developer using Unity Engine, but I also have a full-stack background. Cool. I did full-stack development for a web internship. That's how I learned about React and Postgres and MySQL and Firebase and a ton of other stuff. Like, it was just jam-packed with stuff, but it got my foot in the door for JavaScript and TypeScript as well, so that's kind of cool. It's the only time I've ever done something like that I can say is kind of on a professional level, so it's kind of cool. Okay, so there's one other thing I want to do. I kind of wish I could unit test this, so I'm confident to say this works. So what I'm probably gonna do is take this out, because this tokenize function inherently has more uses than just being right here. Like, this is a pretty useful general function to have. Maybe not include this error handling part, but I would kind of like to bring this out. So I'm actually going to go to my util header, and we're gonna kind of transfer this over, because one, I would like to unit test it. I think it'd be nice to say that this works. And two, I would also like to just have this for the future. This seems like a very useful general function to have. So the return type is a vector of strings. It is called tokenize. It accepts a target string and a separator character. So we'll just call this str now, and we'll say separator character. So then inside util cpp, we'll go ahead and write the implementation for it, which we've already done. We just have to transfer it and modify a little bit. I'm gonna make this const. And then in here, this should be inside the util namespace. And we're going to bring in all these guys, like so. And then we're going to change variable name for str. Now the question is, do I still want this to error out if 0 tokens are found? I feel like if we're using this function, the expectation is that we expect it to tokenize, so I'll leave it in here for now. If I ever use it where I want it to purposely return nothing sometimes, then I'll remove it. But for now, I think it makes sense that if we use something and nothing happens, we would like to explicitly know about it. Are you actually like building your own game engine? Yes. So the entire game is just built on a framework called the OLC Pixel Game Engine. Despite it being having game engine in the name, it's not really a game engine. It provides you with a rendering backend, and it also provides you with a couple of functions to allow you to easily draw to the screen, handle input like keyboard and mouse, and also just have some nice utility functions. So there's like a vector system that it comes with, so that's kind of handy sometimes. But other than that, like, yes, all the game systems I have to build myself, and that's partially the reason why this project is over 450 years old. I meant to say days old, but I was like thinking years old, but you get what I mean. Kind of crazy how AI was not used to make this project. I know a lot of people like to comment about that. Hi there, Robert. Welcome. Yeah, like a lot of people come in, they're like, whoa, hand coding, that's so cool. I'm like, I'm just doing what I've always done. Like, this isn't anything. I guess nowadays it's a little special, but it's not like this was. I've done anything different compared to what I've normally done. You know? It's just. It's fascinating to me that nowadays that is like the response, right? It's like, you could have gotten this done so much faster. Why aren't you using AI? Right? Anyways, this should be good, and now it's testable. So what I'm going to do is we're going to open up a util test. I think I either called it file, let me see. Engine test. I think this is a good place to put it. So I don't think we have much in here yet, but let's go ahead and switch project to unit testing mode. And let's go ahead and add in a new test. So we're testing to see if the tokenize function behaves correctly. So this is under the engine tests. What did we call this? This was like a, dang, I forget the name of it now. A fixture class. 4 years ago, it would have been crazy to use AI. It's a shame how far the perception of the skill has fallen in such a short time. Yeah, it's accelerated quite a bit, which is interesting. AI helped me make climbing rope. It's a good rope, but I had to know what was happening for me to tweak it. Yeah, that's the important part. Like, there's nothing wrong with using AI, but what you're gonna have to do is understand the code yourself. Which, to me at that point, it's like, why didn't I just type it out anyway? Like, I need to understand it, so might as well write all the code to understand it, right? Like, but that's just me. Like, I enjoy the process, I enjoy the problem-solving process, but I also understand that AI does help folks who may not be able to 100%, like, come up or conceptualize a problem to get some assistance, or maybe they just want to speed up things. A lot of folks use AI to speed up like all your boilerplate code, so you don't have to write the same like class structure every single time, or you don't have to rewrite tokenize functions for the 1 millionth time, right? Like those kinds of things. I typically hear that AI is very quick and snappy for doing simple things like that, especially. But whether or not it's boring is also subjective, because I've also met developers who are like, well, I don't think it's boring because I get a product out faster and I get to actually see my results, and that's actually fun. Like, for some folks, it's about the product, right? The end result. For some folks, it's the journey, right? That's the place I fall in. I fall under the problem solving. The problem solving is the fun part. The actual writing and touching the code is the fun part. So to me, I don't really benefit from AI, but I can also understand why people do benefit from AI. Tokenize function. I'm just going to say tokenize function test. That's really all this is. So let's go ahead and first make a string, a made-up string of like, let's just start with the basics, right? Nothing. So if we try to parse this, obviously it should just error out because that's what we told it to do. So we're going to say require throws as, and it should throw as a, I think it's just a standard, well, let me look it up. It should throw as, where's the throw? I don't see it. Oh. Throw? Where's the throw? Is it a... Oh, this is the header. My bad. Here's the throw. Standard runtime error. Okay, that makes sense. So this should throw as a standard runtime error. And we're just gonna say... I think we also need the function. Okay, the expression should be util tokenize. This should be like test blank string. In fact, I could just do it inline. I don't know why I'm making a separate variable for it. So we'll just tokenize a blank string using the, let's just do a comma for the tokenize function. So that it should be expected to runtime error. And then let's try something a bit more interesting, like 1, 2, 3. And now we expect it to not throw, and instead require that util tokenize returns is equal to a standard vector standard string that contains 1, 2, and 3, all separated from each other, like so. And then let's do one more that does... Let's do one with 2 different tokens in it, right? Let's do this, and let's do like a colon. And let's just say this is expected to be 1, 2, the string, and then 3 on its own. And I think for the most part, that should cover our bases. If this test passed, I think we're pretty confident that Tokenize works the way we expected. Maybe try a different number of arguments. Let's try like... let's try 10 arguments, right? Have the Tokenize function split those guys up for us. So let me see here. How do we do this? So that one, that one, that one. Yeah, we just gotta split up all these guys. That, get rid of these. Put a... I'm a little lost. Okay. Go to the ends of all these. And put a colon, or apostrophe, or quotation mark, and a comma. So that's what the expected result, at least it should be. Okay. I think that covers most of our bases for testing. So let's go ahead and compile this. I think we're not done. I think I left a bunch of messy code in ability, so let's just clean this up now. So because we made the tokenize function in util now, we can replace, let's see here. So for multiplication, we're tokenizing by a multiplication symbol. And we just pass in variable name. And then once we have the variable name, then we have to do something with final text. And then over here, it's with a colon. So then what do we do with it? We say append to final text, say braces found is now false. This should also say variable name is false. What happened to that? Variable name is blank. I thought we added that yesterday. Did that get removed? Braces found is false. Variable name is blank. Oh, so is that a bug too? Would we have found that eventually if we hit that branch? I'm pretty sure we would have. So that's fascinating. Let me go ahead and... Yeah, because we literally debugged this yesterday. This has to be here. Like, the variable name has to reset between variables. Yes, I did that on purpose. It's got... Let me see. The test says that we have to parse by colons, and I put 1, 2, colon 3, colon 4, and so on. So I put some commas in there as a kind of a brain teaser. But more in a sense of I'm making sure that it doesn't like randomly parse, like for example, other things. And maybe this is a good point to also test like other characters, like A, B, maybe a semicolon, right? Like let's just test other random unrelated characters and make sure that those also get split up correctly as well. So I think that's also an interesting point to bring up. So it just kind of looks confusing. And maybe let me add like a space right here or something. The spaces should be parsed correctly as well. Okay, so we'll run that unit test in a little bit. No, it's okay. I appreciate like as a viewer, you're like watching the code, you're like, am I understanding this correctly? Is this a mistake, right? I enjoy like the interaction in the sense of like you bringing up something that you may think is an error, and sometimes I might miss things too. I hate it when I go back in a stream VOD later on of mine and I look and I'm like, oh my god, the issue is right there. How did you miss it for like 30 minutes, you know? But obviously, like, that's just how it goes sometimes, right? It's funny. Okay, so let's take care of this now. So first of all, this would occur if we didn't find any special prefixes, like we errored out, so could not find a translation function for key. So that's still... So now that we're done, we have to handle this part. So if we do a colon, we're looking for prefixes. So basically we have a special prefix map, which the variable or the tokens now have to map to. So the first value should be the key. So I think we can use what's called like destructuring or something, or structured bindings. I think it's called structured bindings. Anyways, we can do something like, I think this is like the syntax for it. And then you say, I think you do auto here. It's either auto or nothing. So auto, key, comma, val, right? Like the expectation is that we get 2 items out of this, and we want one assigned to one assigned to the other. It might have to be like a pair or something. Cannot bind to non-public member. Okay. Standard vector my pair. So yeah, it probably has to be a pair for structured bindings to work, which I guess makes sense. Which is unfortunate. That would have been a very handy syntax to have, but it's fine. We can just do it this way. So let's put standard vector standard string and say tokens. And then we can split this off into key and value, right? So we have separator key, which should be the first value. Tokens at 0. And then tokens at 1 should be the other value. This should be a standard string. And then tokens at 1 should be the other one. Token separator value. Now the expectation is we only have 2 values here. So on top of it making sure that it has any values, we're going to error out if we somehow end up with more than 2 tokens. So if tokens.size is not equal to 2, then somehow it's done something strange. We just have like an invalid syntax, right? We're establishing a syntax that we're interested in. So we're going to say the, let's say colon token syntax or variable syntax only allows 2 arguments. Example, key colon value. I think that's fair. And then we can say arguments found. And then we just put how many arguments were actually found, which is tokens.size. I assume a size t does display as the actual number correctly, so I don't think we have to change that. But yes, this is just to make sure if token size is not 2, then we've probably done something wrong. I would like the program to crash and let me know. So now this part all stays the same because this functionality is handled exactly in the same manner. So this can all now disappear. This was supposed to be a break for this case. And then finally, we have to handle, let's see here. We're missing a brace. Okay, so close that off and we should be good for the most part. Now we just have to handle the multiplication part. So again, for multiplication, we can have any number of tokens. We're just going to multiply them all together. So let's just go for this. We're going to say for int I in standard views iota view between 0 and the size of our tokenized result. Basically, we're going to iterate through all tokens. It's possible that views is not included. Let me see, or ranges. Yeah, it doesn't look like it is, so let's include ranges. I wish your streams were at least 4 hours. Well, I mean, life happens, you know, there's other things to do, but we enjoy the programming time we do get. This might have to be ranges. Oops. I was in insert mode because thank you, insert key. Cannot deduce class template arguments. Is it because that's a size? That's a oh. How about this one? Yeah, that would probably make more sense. Make this an unsigned variable number. There we go. Okay, so 0 to tokens.size. And then we take I and we just say, so we're going to have some kind of starting value. Like multiplication is interesting, right? Because we have to start with a number. Like we have to start with a quote unquote blank number. So if it's the first number, right? Then we have to multiply everything from there. So we're going to say standard optional float number, which starts off empty, of course. And then we're going to say if not num, then we're going to first populate it with whatever the first number is for multiplication. So we say num becomes equal to standard s2i. Yeah, s2i on tokens at I And then otherwise, if there is already a number, we just say dereference num multiply equals by whatever the next token is. So let's put an else statement in here. So it would look like this. At least I hope that's how the operator precedence works, because that does look a little funky. So let's just confirm. We always want to confirm operator precedence is doing what we expect it to do. So we need to check for the multiply equals operator. That is down here. It's 16, so it's going to be very low priority. Followed by the dereference operator, which it looks like it is third in priority. So it's expected that this happens first, followed by the multiply equals later. So that's good. What else? Oh, and then we have to return the number. So for multiplication, right? We're going to end up with the final number that we have to insert via final text. So in all cases, we actually do this always. Do we even do that if we don't find anything? That's the next question, right? If we don't find anything, we don't reset it. So we only reset if we found something. I guess in that case, we're just keeping it like this. And maybe we're now going to turn this into a small lambda. Because in the future, we might add something to this. I would not have to remember to copy and paste all those lines, right? So this is like add to description, and then we specify what we're adding. So our description is stored in final text. So let's go ahead and pass final text, and then oops. Inside of here, we're going to say const standard string ref, whatever we pass in. So this would be like description text add-on. And then we literally just append it to final text and include these extra lines here, which also means we have to reference these two variables as well. Oops. So braces found and variable name, like so. It also looks like, well, we're gonna need special... No, we don't need special prefixes. That is determined earlier. Anything else? Oops. That's a reference. Is your hair bothering you? Yeah. It's a very long wig, so it gets in the way a lot. It's okay. That's just how it goes. I could pin it down or whatever, but I didn't feel like it today. Yeah. That's fine. Like, most of the time we're just looking at code anyways, so we rarely have to be, like, typing away, right? Plus it's just fun to play with her. At least I think it's fun to play with her. Okay, so we're gonna just say file text plus equals whatever description text add-on is, like so. And add to description will be called now in place of what we had. Where'd it go? Down here. So add to description this now. And then we can also call that on the multiplication side and do that as well. So that's also... That just makes things easier, because we have to do multiple things in 2 places and potentially more places in the future. So now this is designed to where I don't have to remember about these things. And I can just do. And then we can say return true here as well, because we're done after we've resolved this. And then we're adding in a standard toString, the number. So toString numb. Now what happens if we end up with not a number? It means we didn't find any tokens, which is bad. So we're gonna say if not num in here. Let's go ahead and error out because we didn't even populate a number, so for some reason, right? So we're gonna say warning, somehow did not populate a number, right? And this should never be hit because technically if we got here, we already had at least 1 token found, and we've at least... So we should at least do something in here. So if this happens, something crazy memory-wise must have really messed everything up. So somehow did not populate a number, variable, colon, and just go ahead and output that. Okay, so I think for the most part, we've now resolved everything we're interested in. Before I go ahead and proceed with testing it, I'm first going to test the tokenize function. So let's go ahead and start a build. And it will take about 3 or 4 minutes, so we'll let it do its thing. Unless we error out, which is also possible. So, take a little break. The next thing we're going to be looking at, once this is fixed, is obviously make sure the firing lifetime times firing damage multiplier is now working. And then we're going to look at the descriptions for thief. So we can start converting the descriptions for these as well to have the damage values. So this one, hidden dagger, jump backwards while throwing a dagger. We can say the dagger deals some amount of damage, right? Again, we probably have a damage multiplier in here somewhere. Okay, it literally is damage right here. So we just say damage mult colon damage. So who's making you wear that wig? It's me. I'm wearing that wig because I like it. I do it for me. It's the same reason I do my makeup as well, because, you know, I just want to look cute. And I think I look cute, so that's what I do. Dash to target location, becoming invulnerable and damaging everything in the thief's path. So, damaging everything. I want to kind of redo the wording on that. That is a little strange. Looks like we have a failed build, so let's see. Too many arguments for requires throws as. Oh, how's this supposed to go? Expression and exception type. Okay, so we actually didn't need to include a message there. I think that was just a habit from the old testing framework. So we should be about build now, and then we can go into our test explorer and go ahead and run that unit test. So this should be under engine tests. It says it succeeded, but I'm not seeing anything here. Oh, here we go. It just took a minute. Okay, so let's look for tokenize function test and go ahead and run this test. So, are we green? We are not green. Okay, so assertions, 1 passed, 1 failed. Tokenize 1, 2, 3, split by commas. Invalid string position. Okay, let's look at the... Let's see if this says anything else that's interesting. So, util CPP line 269. Okay, that's not helpful. Line 269 and util.cpp. 269. So the error we got was, okay. Let me see here. Invalid string position. What? Invalid... That's confusing. That doesn't make any sense. Like, well, the invalid string position is coming from standard vector. Let me see. Standard vector... Oh, I see here. It's just literally at the end. Wait, the error output function errored. What? 269 character 22, which this is a macro, so I'd have to expand this, but let me see. Okay, well, if that's the case, something went wrong, right? So I guess tokens.size just... Let me see. Because the first one passed, so we got 1 pass, so the second one failed. Let's just see if there's anything visibly wrong with it. I don't think so. I mean, I did say is equal to this vector. Maybe it can't... Maybe this isn't a thing. I don't know if this is even a thing. I assume it's a thing. It, like, checks every... I assume equality for vectors checks. Oh, you know what? This is probably where we have to do equality for vectors with that. I think it's the testing framework. Because I remember it was the same for strings. Catch 2 unit testing docs. Okay, so this was something Avir pointed out a few days ago in relation to strings, which are essentially vectors as well, right? So if I go to, is this even the right place? Okay, I assume I haven't seen this before. This is catch2-temp.readthedocs.io. That's a little confusing. Hold on. I just want the GitHub one. Let's go here. I'm like, the other one doesn't make sense to me. So there was something about, I forget what they're called, but let's see here. Docs are, that's the Discord. We don't want that. Documentation. Here we go. So where's the, no, I don't want migrate. I want, here we go. They're called matchers. Okay, so apparently when we were trying to do string comparisons with like a C string, we needed to use a matcher. So I think there's also a matcher for vectors. So here's standard string matchers. Here's vector matchers. Have been deprecated in favor of the generic range matchers with the same functionality. So there's contains, vector contains equals, unordered equals, and approx. Okay, so we can say catch matchers unordered equals. Okay, we're just gonna do equals. We do want to make, the order does matter. So if we use a matcher, we essentially make it work. At least I hope we make it work. So we're gonna say we're gonna say equals like so. And then hopefully that is all we have to do. We have to remove, wait. This becomes an argument, right? Like that. Can't find, wait, hold on. Oh, you provide one vector, comma, and then equals on the other vector. Interesting. There must be a reason internally for that. It doesn't look like it's happy. No instance of handle expression matches the argument list. Matcher goes on the right side. Oh yeah, you were the one that was telling me about the matchers. So it's not liking this for some reason. What's the argument for this? Okay, it looks like it's a template equals matcher string. Standard vector string, okay. I mean, it's detected that properly. Const standard vector string. I wonder why this is complaining. I mean, other than it obviously telling me... I mean, I could try building it and maybe seeing what the... Because I assume this looks like a template error, so... Maybe we can follow the template error a little bit and get a hint? Oh, require that. I think require that does something different. Or maybe... Okay, so require requires one expression, right? Require that... does do a matcher. Okay, so we're forced to use require that. Okay, that makes more sense. So let's go ahead and do the same thing on these two. Like so. And then let's go ahead and try to run this test now. But yeah, thanks for the tip a while back in regards to the strings, because that just kind of popped up for me and looks like it's finally relevant. We're actually trying to compare vectors, so it looks like it finally matters here. Like I can't really avoid it this time. Okay, so it still fails. So so util tokenize unexpected exception. So it still says the same exception, invalid string position. So we must be going either like outside of bounds or something like that. Like there has to be something we're doing wrong with the actual function. So maybe that's a good thing. Maybe there is an error with our tokenize function. So we have to debug now. So I guess we're gonna breakpoint right here. And let's go ahead and run debug. But apparently this is the proper syntax. Maybe we would have gotten more issues later in regards to checking for equality. I'm not exactly sure, but we can go ahead and try it out later. Okay, so we're at this breakpoint. We're interested in going into tokenize, so let's just jump right to here. And then let's see what it does. So tokens starts out with nothing. Marker should start at 0. And last token index is starting at 0. The string we're bringing in is 1, 2, 3, and separator character is a comma. Okay, so I don't agree. Oh wait, marker is 1. Oh, the plus plus is in here. Oh shoot, that's probably causing bugs. Okay, hold on. The plus plus needs to happen after, so I was trying to take a shortcut. Silly me, right? Silly me. Okay. So let's just do that then. Let's try it again. Let's see if we get further. Yeah, if it was doing that, then who knows what could happen, but this is why we have unit testing, right? Because if we write a function that is kind of critical to what we need to do, and it doesn't do what we need it to do, we need to know. That's literally why I'm testing this, because it's like, if it's not something simple, then I don't want to assume it works, right? Because we'd have to go in-game, we'd see, like, things are broken, then we'd have to debug it anyways. Why not write a unit test where everything is just... If the base function works, then we can work on the bigger picture. So as we can see here, it's split it up into nothing and 1 comma. So that's fascinating. Okay, so we're clearly going to have to debug it again and see what it's doing now. Okay, so we're back in here. Now this time, the marker is still 0. Wait, what? If while we just went down here. What? Hold on. Oh, that was the first test, that's right. The first test no, that's not true, right? Oh, it is true. It does go into tokenize the first time. So that's what we first saw. Now let's go hit tokenize again. And we're gonna now be in here. So the first thing does not hit, which is good. Increment marker. So on marker 1, it's the comma. So now it should parse and end place back on a token. So we now have 1 token. I did not want to do that. So our first token is blank, so it didn't even properly substring it, which, let's see here. So 1 minus last token index minus 1. So the minus 1 is what's killing it. For some reason, I thought the minus 1 was not including the comma, but actually, the going to here counts as not including the comma. What we also don't do is we don't set the last token index after, I'm noticing. So we need to set the last token index equal to the marker plus 1. This is where the offset comes in. We set it to marker plus 1 because now the next token it should start at the next valid character. So now that we've done that, we can go ahead and try it again. Let's try running it first. Let's see how far it gets now. Your while loop looks like a for loop. Kind of, yeah, I can see that. You're right. We could condense it. Let's see, so now we have 1 comma 2 and no 3, so we still got a ways to go. But it's doing better. So I guess the issue, at least from what I can see, is that we don't find another comma, right? So if last token index is not at the end of the string, we have to take whatever's left and make that as 1 value, right? Because whatever's left is an accumulated string separated by other tokens. So that makes sense. So we just haven't handled the last bit. So let's say if last token... Technically that if statement is always true, right? No matter what, we're always... Well, that's not necessarily true. What if we have an empty string? If we have an empty string, then this statement should evaluate to false. If last token index is still less than or equal to string length, then we get to place back 1 more time, and we just go to the end of the string, so we don't even have to include that argument. Ooh, that's interesting. That is an edge case. Okay, so what do we even do there? Do we say it produces a separate blank string? I think that makes the most sense, right? So let's say we have this. I think the expectation is it produces a blank string at the end here. I think that's what we would like. Hey Amy, keep up the cool streams. Are you gonna develop a 3D game engine one day? I mean, technically I do have like a little 3D prototype of like a Faceball game I made. There's an SNES game I played as a kid called Faceball 2000, and I literally kind of recreated it, so that was cool. So I technically have something like that. It's a little crude, and I would like to go back to it eventually. That would be fun to play with. I've also done a 3D like Minecraft clone, which was fun. So there is that. Thought we considered blanks errors. We considered nothing an error, but we do consider a parsed blank, like, we do consider if there is a separator character that there are tokens to parse, right? Like, this should evaluate to 2 blank strings. So in theory, there are arguments here, I guess. So I think these are edge cases that are worth testing as well. Why should it contain empty? I think the results should be like 1, 2, and 3. I don't know, because I see it as like a separator character, right? So strictly, it should produce whatever is between those arguments, which in this case, there's nothing. So we would expect the arguments to be blank. Like that's how I see it, right? If we put the separator character, you can sanitize the string, but so the thing is, the use case for this is that it's probably going to be human inputted. So I don't think we would have this problem anyways. Like, this isn't going to be a perfect tokenized function I'm trying to release to the world. So I think we can ignore some of the extreme edge cases like that. I don't think sanitization is in the scope of this function either. Like, that would probably be another function, like a trim or something. Or maybe not a trim, but maybe like a... Yeah, I don't know. That's just another edge case I think is a little too far for our sanity. Like, I don't think I'm ever gonna make it have anything like this, but I think I would like to make sure Tokenize does not error out. Like, this is what I would suspect or expect if I put this here by accident. So I would like it to do that at least. Now, maybe what Kraton said is interesting. Maybe the idea that if we have a blank token, then that's probably human error. Probably the expectation is every string should at least be 1 in length. So if it's blank, like, we've probably done something wrong. That's suspicious, right? So maybe I do want to actually error out if that occurs. I kind of like that better. Let's change this behavior. Let's say that if we do this, it's a human error, and we should not allow this. So we're going to say that these are going to actually throw a runtime error. I think that's more fair, and probably, well, 1, easier to implement, but 2, I think is more suitable for what we're trying to accomplish. So these should be runtime errors due to the blanks. And then in here, we just say... if we are emplacing, we can just say right here, if last token index is also equal to the marker, then it means we are in the same location, or more specifically, we can get the output of substring. I guess we could do it that way, because that's a little more sensible. So we could say const standard string, token. It's going to be this, and if token length is equal to 0, then we're going to error out. Otherwise, we emplace back the token, and then we'll just create a little error that says, warning, a blank token occurred, which should not be allowed. A blank token was found. This should not be happening. because that is basically an error in our config file. So I do like this behavior the most. I think it's the most sensible approach. And then we'll just say input was input string colon str. So with that in mind, we can now go back here and let's just go ahead and run it now. Let's see where we're at, because we did change a couple things. Standard view split. Interesting. That sounds pretty useful. I assume it just literally creates elements based on... I assume it would only work on a string then, right? Like, how would you split... Well, I guess you could generalize as, like, if an object is equal to this value, then each subgroup is now split up by some separator object. I guess you could generalize it to more than just strings. So that's fascinating. Because views are pretty generalized. They're not just for, like, strings. So that sounds interesting. So what happened here? The first assertion failed. Why? It was supposed to runtime error, and apparently it did not. Why didn't it runtime error? I guess we're gonna find out. That's interesting. Not even the first one works now. Okay, so we're in here, going to here. Let's see. So this is supposed to be a blank string, and there's nothing, so we try to... If last token index is less than or equal to... I think this has to be... Let me see. This has to be less than the string length, because if it's equal to, it's going to try and place a substring containing something. So yes, that is the problem. Only because if the last token index is not the end of the string, then that means there was more to add in between the last separator and the end of the string. So that to me makes sense. So in the previous case, it did end up adding a token that was just a blank string, and then now there was a token, so the test failed. Okay, so let's see here. If it takes more than like a second, then I think it's probably good to assume that something went wrong, like it got stuck in a loop or something. So now 2 tests have passed, and this one has failed to error out, the one with the comma at the end. So we didn't crash, essentially. Also, this doesn't output the variable name. On line... what is this? Line 274? It doesn't output the variable name. Oh, I guess it was actually blank, that's why. Wait, why is it blank? So... tokens.size was not equal to 0, so it should not have hit this. I don't know if I'm reading that right when that occurs. Like... because it does say no tokens were parsed, but it's like... is that the error we hit? I guess that's the error we hit, but if no tokens were parsed, that means the 1, 2, 3 didn't even resolve. Interesting. So let's go back in here. And let's just go down to the third one where it crashes. So, I'm gonna skip that one. I think it's... let's go down to this one, because that's the one it errors on. And then go inside Tokenize. And let's go right here. So again, 1, 2, 3, and a comma at the end. So iterate. Marker is 1. So at marker 1, we have a comma, so that should add a token. So there's 1 now. And then we wait till marker 3, and that's another comma, which should add 2. And then we have another marker at 5. So we're at marker 5, so then it adds in 3. And now we're at marker 6, which is the end of the string. So since we're at the end of the string, now it should go down to here. And then, last token index is now 6. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the string length is 6, and the last token index is 6. So this statement should not occur, which means we ended up with 3 tokens. So this error should not have occurred. We return tokens. Tokens are 1, 2, 3. So we never hit this, which is why it was complaining. So token.length, how did we not hit this? I guess is the next question, right? Because we were supposed to hit that line. So let's try that again. We're gonna go, let's turn these into, so we can make this only hit if another breakpoint was hit at first, and we can say we're hitting, yeah, we're hitting this breakpoint. So we have to hit line 195 before we can hit this breakpoint. I like how there's like multiple things here because it's a macro that expands. So we're just gonna say that. Don't enable this breakpoint until that breakpoint has been hit, and then we can go from there. Oops, I did not mean to run. Okay. My Visual Studio has decided to be slow. Okay. So now, let's go ahead and debug. So I should be able to F5 2 times, which will take us straight to here, hopefully. So now, we're gonna do this again until marker hits 6, then we should end up down here. Oops. I did not mean to do that. Restart, please. Oopsies. Don't forget to drink something. Drink reminder. That's funny. Okay. I'm actually just gonna hit this so I don't have to manually mess up again. So, oh, we were supposed to check in here. Never mind. I was right the first time. I'm losing track of where I am. But yes, when we get to marker 6, the expectation is that it's 4, 5, and then 6. Okay, so we never hit this because the comma is the last token. So, like we don't enter here because the blank token found check is only occurring when we have validated that there is more to add. So I guess, would we just say the edge case? No, because what happens if it's like in the middle, right? Then it would work. So like this test case, if we just put like another comma in between here, would actually throw correctly. So that case is handled, but this case is not handled. So like I can remove that part. That's not what we're testing. So I guess we can just check if the last character is also equal to the separator character. Then that would mean the next thing we parse, because we're not checking here. So, oh, you know what? This is the same logic as what we had up there. We would try to place back another token. If it's of length 0, then we would fail it again. So that's interesting. Okay, I like that. So store this as a token before I'm placing it back, and then check its length, because we are doing that anyways, and then do less than or equal to string length, because we don't enter here. Let me think. Because last token index would have been what, 6 as well, right? Which, or no, is that true? Yeah, because it was marker plus 1, so it would have been 3 comma, it would have done marker plus 1. So making this less than or equal to would resolve that? I think that's correct. Because what I'm seeing here is that, let's say for the blank string case, it would get down here, it would try to add 1 token, it would realize the token length is 0, and it wouldn't work either. So this should never be hit, because we're always going to add a token no matter what. So this is redundant, right? That makes sense to me. So we're just going to try this now and see what happens. It's interesting. Interesting how that kind of reveals itself. Oh, I didn't put them in place back. That would help. Goodness. Okay, probably have to redo this. God. Okay. And then hopefully this does what we're looking for. But yeah, this is why unit testing is important, right? And then afterwards, we can also try the standard view split thing and see how that behaves. I would like to at least see what that's like so we can determine if that's useful to us or not. Alright, so all of our unit tests are now passing. So the behavior we would like through these unit tests is exactly the way we need it to be. So now that we've done that, we know our function works. So because of that, we can go back to ability.cpp and make sure we've implemented everything we're interested in. So the tokenize happens here, parse tokens based on, you know, iterate through our tokens. Instead of doing this, I should have just done it by token, right? That would have made more sense. Like, I could have just done const standard string ref token inside of tokens. I think I would have rather done that. That would have been more sensible. Just to reduce some funny business. And then down here, this looks fine to me because this is supposed to be just one key, one value, so that's fine. Okay, so I like those two. And real quick then, I want to see what view split is about. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to open my example project and let's just have some fun with it. A little bit of experimental coding. This is something I haven't used, so I'm always interested to see what other features are out there about C++ and see how we can utilize them, right? So I always have an example project to help me test things like this. So let's say we have, in our case, we'll do something similar. We'll have a vector of strings first, or maybe, no, just one string. Because a string is a vector, and we can use views on it to split it up. So this is just a string that we can put like, hello world, I am writing in C++. And then I want to parse it by spaces. So I'm going to do for, we're going to say standard string. If I can type, that would be nice. So standard string, word in str or standard views split. It looks like we can also have a split function, so that's probably how you would handle it for something else, which is interesting. It looks like we have delimiter or a range and a pattern. So interesting, it can use patterns too. But anyways, we'll assume a delimiter is like a char. Requires a suitable begin function. Oh, let's do word pipe standard view split, or not word, str pipe standard view split. No user defined conversion from split view to ranges. Okay. Let me take a quick peek at what this is actually doing. So standard views split. Let's take a quick peek. So I've never seen this before, so let's see. Split view takes a view and a delimiter and splits the view into subranges. Split view models the concepts forward range and common range. Okay. Example. Split. Oh, okay, it's just a function. Interesting. Not how I expected it to be used, but okay. So first argument is... Where's the... Oh, why'd they write, like, code for the... That's kind of funky. So what is this trying to say? Template, forward range v, and a pattern. This says... What? Call sign... I feel like this is broken. Why does this look broken? Split. Split pattern. This looks kind of right. Like, I don't understand why this isn't normally how it looks. Like, normally, let me look at, like, I know filter view probably looks... Did this all change? Like, it used to not look like this. Like, if I get something, I'm expecting it to be, like... let me just search for, like, let's try like vector, right? Just something simple. Wow, this is really weird to read now. I don't like this. It used to, so before, I don't know if it's like changed or something, but like, it used to not look like this. Or maybe it did, I don't know, something, it definitely, I don't like how it looks now. I can view like, I can view these, right? Yeah, like, I don't think it's always been like this, the CPP ref, that's kind of weird. I don't like it though. So how am I supposed to read this now? Because it's like template. Class T. You say using vectors. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. It was readable before. Why is this not readable now? Constructor. Okay, I mean, okay, it's still readable, just I need to go into something else. Okay, that makes more sense. That wasn't the constructor doc, so this makes more sense to me. I was a little confused. So then we jump back to here, or not here, split view, and we can see, okay, so what I'm looking for is call signature. Okay, here. So split R, and then R is, or underlying adapted, viewable range, or pattern, class pattern. Okay, I think this makes more sense. Okay. And according to this, a delimiter can be a string. I wonder why it doesn't work for char. Maybe it's just the way it is. Oh wait, I need to move this. Yeah, this is not how, since the other views you kind of like pipe step into each other, I thought that would be how you would use it as well, but apparently not. This is still, hold on. Let me auto this and see what it spits out. Oh, it's not gonna be a string, it's gonna be a char, right? Interesting. Am I doing this wrong? Oh, okay, so the way they do it here, they're like, they just provide a string, and I assume it is supposed to provide a string going out. That would make sense, right? Because they're delimited. So I don't understand why that wouldn't work. But auto does? Auto turns it into a... whatever the heck that is. Is that a string? Hold on. So what is this then? Okay, fascinating. So this is like an iterator or something. So then I have to like, can I dereference it? Can I... What can I do with this then? That's fascinating. So I can't see out it. So it's calling this a subrange. So what's a subrange? Subrange. I assume it's like a view within a view. Subrange. The subrange class combines an iterator and a sentinel into a view. So it is a view. Can I then... So could I take that and say standard ranges to standard string? And then just... Okay, then it turns into a string. Okay, that makes sense. So let me standard endline this and try to print out those words. Stack assert failed. C must be a class type. What? What? What do you mean C? Hold on. Where's this coming from? Is this even related? What is MSVC ranges to? C must be a class type. Ranges to requires the result to be constructible from the source range, either by using a suitable constructor or inserting each element of the range into the default constructed object. So I guess it can't convert it. Interesting. I was kind of hoping it just would. Okay, that's fascinating. let me see how a subrange gets used in the example. So in here, they have a multi-map of ints to chars. Okay. So multi-map is just like you can have one key, but you can have multiple values for each key. So it's like 4 storing an A and a B and a C. Before and after, it does an uppercase transform on MM using an int, comma 4. So auto first last. So grab the range that is equal to, in this case, 4, and then iterate through a subrange from first to last. So first to last. First would be... Okay, so this returns like an iterator of all values that match inside of a multi-map. So it's literally the begin and the end of this iterator as a subrange. Underscore though. What is the underscore doing? Okay, so they were saying it's both an iterator and a sentinel. Okay, so maybe this is like the iterator and this is the value, because then it does make uppercase on the char. So if so basically I need to take this and grab first, or no, second. Either like second. Well, let's try doing what 8 did and do a structured binding, right? So auto, I'm just gonna put underscore here and v, like they did, of word. So if I do that, okay, is value now a string? Or is underscore a string? Are either of these strings? Can I do v now? No. What about underscore? Okay, so I still can't output either. So v, interesting, and underscore, also interesting. Okay, well, I mean, we kind of got one step closer. So what is this? What else is this doing? This is doing make uppercase on v, and v is supposedly a char. So these were chars getting inserted into here. So when we do subrange, the second value is the second item is the view. Is that what I'm reading? A sentinel into a single view. Huh. Interesting. Okay. But I mean, that makes sense for like this because they are just chars. Like looking back at this, if we do a split, apparently it returns a subrange of tuple. Okay, it says tuple element, which is also interesting, right? Subrange of tuple element, comma, another subrange of a string iterator. So is this v another subrange? Const auto underscore v2 or underscore comma v2 is set to value v. Is that, am I reading that right? No components to bind to. Okay, so it doesn't like that. So the v is a tuple element type, and it says 1. I don't know what 1 comma subrange type. So what is tuple element? Tuple element. Okay. Provides compile time indexed access to the types of the elements of a tuple. So a tuple can be a multitude of types. So when I'm looking at tuple, I'm looking at multiple types stuffed inside of this thing. But it says tuple element, so it's like, all right, well, how would I, what is the point? What am I doing here? There's this print types template function, which is interesting, but why is boost in here? Type index. I guess boost is needed to access those. So I guess compile time indexed access to the types of the elements of the tuple. Types. This doesn't seem relevant to what we're trying to do. Tuple element. So they're both tuple elements. This other one is like they're both these like type things. I wonder if there's any hint if we look at code. Can we look at code? Let's see. What does this tell us? Let me split this up here. Split. That doesn't tell me anything. I assume a split function doesn't return anything different either. I think... Wait, standard string view has an explicit constructor that takes a ranges view. Oh, they are using a string view, aren't they? Wait, let me go back one. In the example here, they said they were using a string view. So when they were using a string view, with string views C++23 range constructor. Oh, that's... Okay, so that's in that comment. Okay. So this is only thanks to using a string view. Interesting. So if I change this to be an SV, and I assume we're also gonna have to... Oh, looks like I already included the symbol stuff. Then we end up with a word that contains... So now, use standard string views constructor to construct a string out of the range that comes out of it. Standard string view, however the heck that works, produces words. So now we ended up with a... That is not what I was expecting. I was expecting it to be each word on its own line. So that's interesting. I mean, I assume I can also use characters, but I don't think it should matter here. At least, I mean, I guess this has to be a string view as well. Maybe I was trying to compare as like a string. That could have been a thing, potentially. There we go. So, hello world, I am writing in C++. It's now being divided. So I think my assumption was by trying to split it between strings, it's like, it's a string view, so it doesn't know how to split between string objects. That would be like my best guess for why it doesn't work for a string as the delimiter, but it works for a string view. Which is fascinating. But this is why ranges and views are such a complex system, is because there's so much going on under the hood that, like, trying to get a deep level understanding of these takes so much, like, time and effort. It's kind of insane, actually. Potentially expensive copy of variable word. Oh, well, I mean, yeah. But, yeah, that's interesting. So I wonder how it handles other stuff, right? So, like, for example, if we did something like this, and we did something like this, what will that output? Like, versus our test case scenario, right? Like, I wonder how it'll treat that. Like, 2 spaces and spaces at the end. So in this case, with 2 spaces, there is a blank string, and there's even a blank string at the end. So it does actually handle splitting with nothing in between, which is fascinating. But it also makes sense. It doesn't really know, like, okay, this delimiter, like, has multiple spaces. It just knows that's the delimiter, which I guess is fair for a very general use case. So that's interesting. Okay, so that was interesting to try. It's just another, like, tool in the toolbox. I'm not going to use it here. I don't think it's necessary, and this offers me a lot more control. This actually gives the behavior I'm interested in. But thank you for showing me that, and that's also, like, you know, we learn new things, right? We try things, we experiment, we have fun. That's part of the fun of programming. So, thank you. Back to this. Let's, we need to now see it in game. So, now that the unit testing has proven that Tokenize does what we want it to do, we need to actually see if in-game it properly has parsed, or if I missed anything there. So what we should see is, well, all the parsing like before should still work, but now firing lifetime times firing damage mult should be resolving, because we handled that inside a new setup. Like we have this setup now that kind of does that for us. For your tokenizer, you could probably use find first of to handle multiple delimiters instead of a split, though it only works with single character delimiters. Find first of instead of split. I'm not understanding the split concept. Is substring supposed to be the split that you're referring to? Okay, we're still compiling, so this will be a minute. And then we're almost out of coding time for today, but we learned something new. And we made this function work. This function is probably going to be useful in other places, so that's nice. Regarding new lines, you asked why the range of split wasn't giving new lines? Oh, I see. Instead of split, okay. So there is a... Or is there a find for, like... It's only a string thing, right? Standard string, standard find... Oh, this is there's a general version of this that accepts iterators? Okay, that's interesting. Okay. But again, that only finds one, right? So then you'd have to throw that in a loop. So essentially we're back to like doing it manually at that point. How'd I get here? Did I like press buttons I wasn't supposed to? Okay, so we crashed, which is fine. In the sense of we have something new to look at. Cannot find variable firing lifetime times firing damage mult. So it somehow didn't actually parse this into its own thing. So that only happens if this returns false. So this whole thing did not get resolved correctly. So we have to figure out why. I guess the indicator wasn't found. But that wouldn't make sense, because we do have these here, so it's like... it probably should have worked. That's interesting. Because the variable name is firing lifetime times firing damage mult, so we would expect find gets found, or multiply does get found, and we are returning true here, so it's nothing about that. So I guess we're gonna breakpoint here and see what happens. We are in release build, so we're probably not gonna get too much useful information, but maybe we'll see something obvious by doing this. Yeah, I just don't think the split view thing is quite what I want in that scenario. Okay, so we're not even going in here from the looks of it, so that's interesting. So in this find and parse thing, if it can't find the property inside the config file, which it shouldn't, it should then hit this else statement. And this else statement should do all this. So it should have hit here, and it doesn't look like it's optimized out, so something's not working. Let me just go up here. I'll just hit refresh again, or restart. At the very least, we should be inside of this function. Yeah, so that's interesting. Oh, you know what? I think the way it's parsed might be messed up. Let me see. Like, the fact that we're not hitting it at all is interesting. For ability... Okay, where is this error message is the next question. Because, like, how far are we getting? Get description with player modifiers. Oh. Okay. So it should have been like, okay, can't find the property. If size t separator marker and wait, what is this? Oh. I have to fix that. That's not supposed to be there. Wait. This is a different find and parse, isn't it? Parse variables for enchant versus parse... Oh, there's two of these. That's fascinating. Do they do different things, or did I just copy paste? It looks like I copy pasted. Like, what's the difference? Hold on. This is interesting. Did I literally just copy paste out, like, maybe laziness? Like, did I just decide I want to copy paste in this instance? So what I can do is I can grab this real quick. This is the whole, this is the whole find and parse statement from there. And I want to compare it to this one, right? Like, are these two identical? I kind of think they are. That's also why this variable name equals blank was not fixed in the other one. Because that was a separate one that I copy pasted. Ooh, Amy did a bad. So probably my logic was I'm probably never gonna like touch this code, which is hilarious because I am touching this code. So I decided to copy paste it and not extract this function out, but it looks like I have to do that now. So that's actually hilarious. So Amy did a bad. So we're gonna take all of this and we're actually gonna bring out find and parse out of this lambda, and then let's see here. So now I guess the problem is these variables have to be arguments if we want to use them now. That is kind of annoying. So it'd be like, I have to think, that's probably why I didn't refactor it, was because of that reason. But I kind of want to now because we've now run into the scenario where copy pasting code has caused me to have issues. So I think what I would like to do is refactor this so that it is now a standalone lambda. So const standard string, well, it's not gonna be const, it can be modified. So we're just gonna say standard string ref final text. This is braces found, which is a boolean we can modify. And then special prefixes should be a const map passed in. I'm surprised that's not like already, like where is special prefixes? Shouldn't that be much higher up? Yeah, it's up here. So I don't see why that isn't already, maybe it's just this was erroring out, that's why. Oh, variable name, excuse me. So I messed up. So the variable name is also a, I guess bringing it into here, the variable name doesn't change, so this can be a const string. Okay, so adding all these arguments in, final text is an out variable, and braces found is an out variable. Apparently variable name is 2. Okay, so all these are out variables. I'm going to add in, so I do like to use the mutable keyword explicitly when it's an out variable, so I know for sure that they're going to be modified coming out of this function. Because it's not clear to me, like, another way to do it is I could add, like, out or something or output to the variable name so I know. But I think mutable makes it clear, like, when I see mutable, my eyes kind of switches focus to it. Because normally everything's already mutable, so why am I adding the keyword, right? So yeah, I think this is a good use of it. So, to indicate that these are output variables. So now that I've done this, and this function is ready to be used in 2 spots, I just have to replace this find and parse to utilize that new find and parse, which I have to bring in by copying it. Let me see. I feel like it should have auto-copied. Oh, right, we have more arguments now, that's right. So we have to add in, like, all these other variables, which almost screams like macro to me, but I'm just gonna give it the benefit of the doubt and say these text variables need to be inserted here, right? So we're just gonna do that. Wait, how do I, did I mess up? Okay, let me do this instead. And then we have to add in the variable name variable. No, we already did that. So it's final text, braces found, then variable name. So make sure that ordering is correct. And that should be all. And then the actual what's after this? Final text, braces found, variable name. So is that not right? Hold on. Oh, I just have a lingering parentheses. Okay. So now that's correct. Then we go down here and we do the same thing 3 times. And get rid of these. Anything else? I think that's everything. Okay. What happened? Because these should be the same variables, like, is IntelliSense just catching up? Expected a closed let me see, expected a closed parentheses at the end, right, because I deleted the original ones. Wait. If not find part... Oh, this is funny, this is like a stacked if statement. So this reads kind of funny. If I wanted to be insane, I could do that. Or I could turn it into, like, I think logically, like, I think I asked this one time, like, I just, like, did, like, a vibe check with, like, others. I'm like, would you do this? Or would you write, like, if not, find and parse and, like, so they would all have to be, basically, try fix it, try to do it here. If it doesn't work, try to do it here. If not, try to do it here. The other logical way to do that would be to use, I guess, a not, wrap everything in parentheses, and do ors, right? So you'd say find and parse, or find and parse, or find and parse, right? And if one returns true, then you cut off the logic. Like, this would be more, I guess, easier to read, logic-wise, if we did it like this. That should be identical logic, in theory, if my parentheses are correct, which they might be. No, this one is lingering. So it would look like this. So I think this is, in a sense, a little more readable, because it short circuits if any of these return true. And if they all return false from all being tried, then we error out. Do I like that? Which is interesting. I'd probably separate the parsing from the search. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. That way the logic doesn't encompass the finding part returns the true and false, which then determines if we actually parse it or not. So if you didn't have that part, you wouldn't be doing all these consecutively and trying to find it. Which, yeah, that would greatly simplify things. I think... I think what I'll do is, to make this a little more readable, I think I'll just do const bool bound variable, right? If I do that, that's like the quote-unquote search, just separated. Or logic any of these, so one of these has to be true. It starts with this one. If it's true, it short-circuits the other two. Then, if not found variable. I think I like that. That's a little more cleaner and understood. So let's go with that and see if that resolves the issues we were having earlier. I probably have some breakpoints still hanging out, so let me see if I can get rid of them. Delete all breakpoints. Okay. Oh, we have some errors. Unexpected token error stream. I think our parentheses are wrong here. Okay. You could probably afford a DOM or object parser, and maybe you could do repeated lookups on the DOM object if a key doesn't exist. I'm not sure what any of that means. I know the DOM in the sense of a HTML, like web dev perspective, is a thing. And I guess that is used for HTML, which is a markup language. So in a markup language, you basically assemble objects based on string parsing. So I assume you mean like using, like, let's say we have that text string, for example, right? You would take the variables, here's a better example. You would take these, and these would turn into quote-unquote like objects, which then can have like special behaviors based on what's inside the objects. Basically like a markup language, right? Is that kind of what you're getting at? Because that's the only way I can think of when you say object model. Invalid S2I, okay. Interesting, we got a little further at least. So what is this? Token is what? Tokens are firing lifetime and firing damage mult. Oh, I'm trying to S2I the token and not grabbing from the config, which is silly of me, because that's what I'm expecting to do. So with the tokens, I have to grab from the config. And we can do that via... I think this variable is still... Oh, we use the data file that we passed in. Where is that? Okay, this is the data file containing all of our config. So we can do data.getProperty, whatever variable name, and that should contain the actual token stuff. And then we just convert it to, oh, so it will already convert it if we assume it's a, well, it shouldn't be an int, we're going to assume it's parsing a string. Yeah, that makes sense. And then from there, it should be able to S2I it because we're expecting a number, but I'm going to do S2F because I'm realizing they could be floats, so makes a little more sense to use S to F because I didn't realize we could handle floats too. Oh, okay, so I kind of understood what you were getting at. That's very fair. That sounds like an interesting way to go about designing it, and maybe a more common way too, arguably. I could see it being done that way, for sure. Definitely, very thought-provoking. But it's interesting that even if I didn't understand what you were talking about, the fact that I've interacted with similar leads me to infer that, like, hey, this is sort of what you meant, right? Okay, so it looks like we finally have some parsing that actually works. So channel for 1.5 seconds, summons a meteorite that strikes for 90 damage, deals additional 10 fire damage over 4 seconds. So the 4 obviously has a bunch of zeros in front of it. So I think... I'm not sure what to do about that. Like, if there's no remainder, display it as, like, maybe 1 digit. Like, this one you can see resolves correctly. I think we just always make it be 1 decimal place. But, like, what if it's just 2 integers? Then I don't really want it to display the... Like, it's hard to say. Do I want to display the decimal? I think I do, if we're assuming we're handling floats. Maybe we have another operator or something to handle, like, conversion to integers or later or something. Well, we'll have to figure that out another day. But for now, I think the easiest thing to do is to, after the to string, we just format it, right? Or maybe we can just format it at the same time and just say :1, I think is how we do that. And that should be all we have to do. In theory. So let's try that and see what happens. And then I think this is the last thing we're doing for today. But it's been a fun, interesting coding session. We've made a tokenize function, and we've refactored quite a bit of our ability tool, ability information parsing, which is really nice. It feels a lot more flexible now, so which is a good thing. Before it was very restrictive, like the only syntax we could do was a colon, and we couldn't handle multiple arguments. So now we can, which does sound inherently useful for some situations. So we can see here I've broken it down to, oh, standard format even handles the decimal thing. Maybe. I think that's what it's doing. Okay, interesting. I kind of want to see now. Just to wade my curiosity, let me just go ahead and change this supposedly to, let's make the firing damage frequency 0.9 seconds instead. What will it do now? I wonder. Oh wait, no, not the, excuse me. We don't incorporate the damage frequency in the calculation, we incorporate the damage multiplier. What if I made it, or not the, God, 4.1. Let me do like 4.10000. Let me see what that looks like. Standard format is better than both. In a pinch, you can use string stream. I remember doing that in the past, yes. But format is just super nice. If anything, my overuse of format leads to incredible compile times, of course. That doesn't quite do anything. I think I have to put a .2, because maybe the .1 doesn't... It almost sounds like it's just saying instead of doing it's doing one digit instead of one digit after the decimal, which is what I assumed this was doing. Maybe I'll look at format in more detail tomorrow and just fix that up. But my intention was display one decimal place. So if it's not even doing that, then we have a problem. But yes, standard format is super nice. But I do use it everywhere, so it compiles like a million versions of standard format, depending on what I'm doing, right? Which is fine, because that saves writing a lot of extra code. Like, there was one viewer I had that came into my stream one day and was like, well, consider how much you would be writing if templates weren't writing the code for you. And I'm like, okay, that's a very fair point, actually. I do agree with that. But then, like, what if we have, like, a 3-digit number? Then it's not good to display 3 digits. So I need to look up how to standard format by decimal place. Like, just X number of decimal places, always the actual number. So I'll look at that later. But that's going to be it for today's stream. For those of you that tuned in today, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Fun stream.